Okay, so full transparency, because that is important. I'm recording this video the night of Tuesday, November 9th. It's 5:42 p.m. here on the Pacific Coast, so it's 8:42 p.m. in Montreal. Right now, as I'm recording this video, Ben Chiarot has just gone to the penalty box, and he's coming off of a performance where he actually looks pretty good, and he had himself his third goal on the year. He is one of the top goal scorers on the entire Montreal Canadiens, which makes his name a lot more valuable in these discussions right here. But we're referring to a piece in The Athletic the other day, published by Arthur Staple. 10 thoughts on the New York Rangers through 10 games. This is from a week ago, so this article is a bit outdated, but what this article pretty much highlights is the New York Rangers. Of course, because Arthur Staple is a Rangers beat reporter. And he talks in this piece about a few interesting notes regarding the Rangers. Now, because it's The Athletic and it's paid-for material, we're going over onto NHLRumours.com, where they pretty much summarize what Staple talks about and his main idea that I'm highlighting here in this video. Arthur Staple of The Athletic says that the New York Rangers have had some early issues with their bottom part of their defensive core. Although it's still early, they may need to keep their eye on the depth defenseman trade market. Two options on struggling teams could be pending UFA defenseman Ben Chiarot and Calvin de Haan of the Chicago Blackhawks. So let's go over this idea right here, the New York Rangers, whether or not they could make a trade for a depth defenseman, and whether or not de Haan or Chiarot could be those guys that Rangers fans would like to see suit up for the blue, white, and what's the last color? Red? My goodness, I can't believe I flubbed that. So, for Ben Chiarot, Montreal Canadiens guy, I chose this day specifically, tomorrow for me and today for you, to make this video because these teams are all not playing. But for Ben Chiarot, he is a guy that actually does have that title, oddly enough, of being one of the top goal scorers on the entire Montreal Canadiens. His 3 goals on the year is enough to put him in, what is that, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie for second on the team in goals with Nick Suzuki, Toffoli, Anderson, and Perreault. Obviously, I'm recording this video as the Kings-Canadiens game is going on, so whoever scores to make it 2-1, if that even happens, will probably break that mold. But he still is one of the top goal scorers on this team, and his overall production of 4 points in 14 games played at the time of recording this audio is not terrible for the role that Ben Chiarot provides. He goes out there with a solid 21 minutes a night, getting pretty consistent minutes. It's never really usually below that. And he has been a somewhat stable-ish kind of guy that has some really bad turnovers once in a while. That's kind of why I'm a lot more reserved when talking about Ben Chiarot, because I know a lot of Canadiens fans love to hate on this guy, but when it comes to the pure, just defensive shutdown game that Chiarot has, he honestly isn't terrible, and he plays 20-plus minutes a night for a reason. Sure, you want more out of your defense, especially in the puck distributing side of things. It's really difficult to justify having this defensive core as a rebounding core of a team that just made the finals because of the losses you had, but Ben Chiarot, for the shutdown defensive style that he plays, is honestly not terrible when he's not giving the puck up in his own zone. Which is why, as a guy who is indeed expiring, and a guy who is playing for a really bad team that you could honestly debate where the team goes the next few seasons, it makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, to at least consider Ben Chiarot as a rental kind of option for any of these teams that are going to be looking for rentals at the trade deadline. And that's not new, right? Everybody's been kind of talking about, okay, Ben Chiarot is scoring goals. Good. Get that trade value up there, Ben Chiarot, so some team goes out there and takes your contract at the trade deadline. If you want to talk about contracts, he's making $3.5 million this season, and as we noted, it does expire this year. He has spent some time with the Montreal Canadiens after coming off of his career's worth of time in Winnipeg, so the next stage of Ben Chiarot's career really is up in the air. Whether or not he'll even want to re-sign with Montreal, that's up for debate too. If the New York Rangers are going to go out there and get this kind of player, what you're really getting is a minutes-eating, capable guy who, even though he has some bad minuses in the season, he was a -16 last year and a -2 this year so far. Actually, that should say -1 now, right? Because he scored. Unless that goal was on the power play, that in which it was not. So yeah, he's good, I guess, a -1 now. you should be getting yourselves a guy that if you give him a little bit less of a number one role, he should be going out there and should be doing pretty well. Again, just bearing the turnovers. The fact that the New York Rangers already have some guys that I think would probably play ahead of Ben Chiarot should Chiarot be added onto that team makes for a really interesting combination, because all of a sudden, if Chiarot's no longer getting 22 minutes a night, he could, in theory, rest up a little bit more and save his energy throughout the course of a game. Hockey is a pretty grueling sport, and playing 22 plus minutes a night as a number one defenseman on a bad team certainly can take a toll. But when it comes to players playing minutes on a bad team, another one that comes to mind is Calvin de Haan. He is the other name that is mentioned by Staple here in this Athletic piece as a potential New York Rangers trade acquisition target. He's 30 years old, 6'1", 194. His contract also expires this season, but he is making significantly more. $4.550 is the cap hit right here. And if you take a look at the overall point production, yes, Ben Chiarot does indeed have a higher point production metric than de Haan. He is currently at 0 points in 13 games played as I record this audio, and his career high of 25 points was achieved in 2017. However, if you're going to go out there and acquire a guy like Calvin de Haan, you're pretty much acquiring him for the same reason you're getting Ben Chiarot. Not because you expect any goal production out of these guys, but because you just need bodies that can play solid minutes that you can pretty much rely on to do the defensive things well. And for Calvin de Haan, I mean, he's playing about 18 minutes a night on the Chicago Blackhawks, but again, it's the Chicago Blackhawks. This team is one of the worst in the entire National Hockey League. It's tough to find a player on this Blackhawks team that looks good. Even Seth Jones, that guy's under a point per game right now, but he still looks pretty bad. So for Chicago, there definitely is a little bit more of an incentive to go out there and maybe ship off some other guys at the trade deadline. Other guys that come to mind are the same ones that we've been discussing before, like Kubalik, like Fleury, these guys who do indeed expire and whose futures with Chicago are a lot more questionable than the guys like the Canes and the Taveses, etc. Actually, I don't think I should say that, because we already talked about the idea of trading Kane and Taves already too, so yeah, I guess there's my argument going out the window there. But for the New York Rangers, if you're really going to go out there and get either one of these Chiarots or de Haans, you're really, as we said, you're looking for that stability. And whatever the price is for that, I don't know what it would be. A first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, maybe 2 seconds or whatever. Maybe you have to get a roster player going back the other way just to balance things out. I don't know. However, I will say, just from a point production and cap hit point of view, Ben Chiarot, to me, is probably the guy that would be a lot more valuable in this situation. He is the same age as Calvin de Haan. They're both born in 1991. In fact, my goodness, they're born on the same day. May 9th, 1991. What the hell? They have the exact same birthday. I just saw that now. Holy, that's crazy. That's really crazy, my goodness. Ben Chiarot, even though he is exactly the same age as Calvin de Haan, he is bigger. He's 6'3" compared to de Haan 6'1". He's bulkier too. He's 230 plus compared to Calvin de Haan's 194. And he's got a lower cap hit at 3.5 compared to de Haan's 4.5, and he also has more points. So I guess Ben Chiarot is the more de facto valuable player here. They're both playing for bad teams, so it's difficult to really analyze and just identify who is better and who is not. When it comes to the advanced analytics, I know everybody loves to say that Ben Chiarot's advanced analytics are honestly not bad this year. It's just the turnovers really sour his reputation amongst the fans. Because, to be honest, man, you remember the playoffs? You remember what he was doing with Edvinsson and Weber and Petrie at the top of the lineup? They were just shutting down teams. Now, I get it. They had to know, they had Tatar, they had Gallagher, they had that line to help out in that department, but I guess you're not going to get anywhere by reminiscing on the past, especially when you went to the finals, because everything that we saw last season is probably not going to happen again this season, just based off of how everything has started out. Oh, there you go, Alex Iafallo, right in the third period, make it 2-1 LA right there. Okay, so talk to me in the comments if you're a Canadiens fan. What do you want to receive for Ben Chiarot in a trade scenario, especially if it's from the New York Rangers? Do you want to go the prospect route? Do you want to go okay, we got to get a roster replacement that is actually good to come out here, maybe a younger guy that can develop into something better down the line? Do you want the draft picks or whatever? If you are a Chicago Blackhawks fan, same question goes to you for Calvin de Haan. And if you are a Rangers fan, would you want to get any of these two players? And if so, what's the cost that you would be willing to pay? Remember, the contrary also exists too. Maybe you could just say, screw it, I like what we have right now. We don't need a Ben Chiarot or a Calvin de Haan. Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Rolls 99. and bye.